good morning, sir. My name is Shailen Analaki Mahendran, PP038595. So, today I will be presenting on the first 6 questions that the assignment question requires. So, the number 1 question is that client workstation must be able to access the web server. So, for this, there was a server created in DMZ zone. As seen here, there was only the HTTP services enabled for it. Other than that, DHCP, DHCP v6, TFTP, all the other services were turned off, except for the FTP, which is another service that the server is going to be used for. And email, IoT, VM, other than that, everything is closed. So what happened here is that we configured the IP configuration with 2001 semicolon DB8 quadruple B A double semicolon 3. So the entire topology is based on IPv6, and so moving on to the next part. What happened here is that if we go under the HTTP, it's turned on. I did a bit of editing here. So hello fellow APU students. So this is what will be prompt to the computers when they access the web page. So the next step for this to be able to work is that we created a DNS server too. Here there was only the DNS services enabled. So other than that, everything was turned off. So under DNS, what we did is that we named it apu.edu.my, and as for the address, we gave it the IP address of the web FTP. So this address, this IPv6 address, was given to this as address, and here when we save it, so when we add it, it gets recorded here. And next, what we do is that we go to the PC, any of the PC. Let's take PC Shailen, and under IP configuration, IPv6 DNS server, we give it the IP address of the DNS server. So it looks up to DNS server, and it will get prompted to the HTTP service that is here. So to show that it is working, we can go to desktop and press on apu.edu.my, and you will see that it's prompted with the web page that we created. And as I showed before, this is the custom word that I included in the HTTP service on the web FTP server. So moving on to question number 2. Client should be able to put and get their files via FTP to the same server. So what happened here is that it's pretty simple. You go into services, make sure your FTP here is turned on, and as you see here, the username and password is the default password, which is Cisco and Cisco. You can actually change it if you want to enter username and enter password, but for presentation purposes, I just kept it as Cisco. So what happens here is that we go to any of the PC, we go to command prompt, we type in FTP and the IP address which was copied from the FTP web/FTP server. So that is the IP address of this server. So what happens here is that it welcome to PT FTP server, and then you press in Cisco, which is the default username, and Cisco again, which is the default password. And now, as you can see here, you're in FTP mode. So from here you can put and get files through FTP. Moving on to question number 3, where as Apit Sri Lanka must be able to connect to the internet as well. So for this configuration, was pretty simple. What we did is that we gave gigabyte internet 0/0. This link is given IPv6 address of 2001 DB8 CCCCA. So based on this IP gateway, we just configure an IP configuration here and give it a unique IPv6 address. So for this, I gave in 2, and don't forget your IPv6 DNS address, which is this IP address. And what you do, so upon configuration of this, and there was a router rip done here. So let me show you. So we have to go to the serial ports. So as seen here, there is IP v6 RIP enabled, which allows the communication between these two routers, and from there it is able to access this part, which is the DMZ zone. So upon all this configuration done correctly, you can go to desktop, web browser, and press in apu.edu.my, and you are able to access the website. That answers question number 3. Moving on to question number 4, emails. So as for emails to work, what we did is that we created an email server in the DMZ zone. Here services only email was enabled, other than that everything is closed. So as you can see here, we gave it a domain name of apu.edu.my. You have to press set upon it, and these are all the different users that are available throughout the topology, which implements the username and password from here. What you do is that you enter your user and password, and you press plus here, and it will get saved in the email server. So next, what you do is that you go back to your PC, you go to email and configure email. So what you do is that you give your name, your password as per the email suggests that you saved earlier, and incoming mail server and outgoing mail server, both these IP addresses has to be the email server's IP address, which is the same thing. So make sure you have that configuration done right. From that, username Shaidan, and the password was 1234. It was default for all the username for the simplicity of showing. And yep, from here you can actually, these are all my test messages. Let's delete it. Okay, let's compose another. So before that, let me show you another PC, which is Logis. As you can see, they are not in the same switch, which means they are in different departments. So as you go, when you go here, let's delete this, config email. So as you can see, it's pretty much the same configuration. The IP address is the email server's IP address, and then logis at apu.edu.my is his email address. Username is logis, password is 1234 as per how you entered in the email server earlier when you registered. So upon all this configuration are done, you can go and press logis at apu.edu.my and subject hi, this is a test message, and when you press send, you will be prompted with this, send is success. So when you come back here and go to Logis, when you come here, it won't show anything, but you have to press receive. It will receive from the email server, and now as you can see here, he got my message. This is a test message. Right, that answers the question, which was to able to check their email. So moving on to the ACL part. Yes, so here let me show you the access list that I created for this. Show run. So when we come down here, yep, so as you can see here, this is the access list that I created for VLANs. So this is IT department's VLAN, their access list actually. So when you see this, it only permits IPv6 any host from subnet AB. Subnet AB is the subnet for VLAN 10, which is also the Department of IT. It's allocated for Department of IT, and we permitted other services such as EQ443 to access the websites, and EQ domain is for the DNS services and so on. So, and moving on, so engineering department only allows subnet AC, whereas finance department only allows subnet AD, which is all their respective domains. So here, other than that, we denied all the others IP addresses. As seen here, this code of line here denies all the other IP addresses that come into the network. So to prove that it's working, let me, yep. So if I PC ping from here to here, it shows as a success. But when I ping from here to here, it fails. But for future purposes, if someone wants to access VLAN 10 from here, they have to be given the IP address of subnet VLAN 10 So when we give subnet VLAN 10, let's give it a random IP address, and let's give it switch port of int f3 f0/3. Int f0/3, and no shutdown because we have to turn on the port first, since that was port security enabled earlier. I will talk about that later. And we have to give it switch port access VLAN 10. So upon this configuration, as you can see, in the future, if they want different departments to be under the same switch, this is possible, because when we ping from Jeremy to, this is actually an IT department PC, IT department example. So as you can see here, even though they are under the same switch, the ping here failed. But when they go through the entire VLAN to the respective VLAN, which is VLAN 10, they could ping each other. So in the future, if they are planning to have different departments in the same switch, ACL allows that to happen. So even though they are in the same department, they won't be able to connect to each other, but through subnets they will be able to. So moving on to the very last question, which is switch port security. Switch port security is configured in the switches here. So what happens is that let me show you the configuration that was done here. Show run. So as you can see here, each interface, the ports are given switch port mode access, switch port security, switch port MAC address sticky, which sticks to the IP address that it first receives, and violation is restrict. So to prove that it's working, let's create another PC called Shailen and give it a different unique IP address, and let's try connecting it to the switch. So as you can see here, the connection is automatically rejected because the port which are unused, which is FA05, is an unused port. It cannot connect to each other, which means the port is down. It doesn't allow any other rogue PCs to enter the switches like that. Network administrator has to be there to turn on the switch. But another fun fact about switch port is that let's say they have the same IP address. So let's just give it the same IP address, and even though they are, so since this PC is connected in FA01, so let's give that PC FA01 port. So since FA01 is a port that is being used, the connection allows. So let's fast forward time. But again, even though the connection is successful, they won't be able to ping each other. You see, it failed because the IP address is the IP address sticks to this PC and not this PC. So the very first IP address, the very first packet sent was from this PC. So this switch adapts to this MAC address. So in the future, there cannot be any other switch. There cannot be any other PC that connects to that particular interface. So again, when I connect it back to this PC, the ping is successful. And as I can show you the configuration of the switch port, show port security int FA0/1. So as you can see here, the port security is enabled, it's up, and this is the MAC address of this PC, which I can show you here. Oops. So config. So as you can see here, this is the IP, the MAC address of that PC, and when you compare it to the last source address and this, so side to side, you can see that 000D, DB2C and C39 is the same physical address. So that adapts to the MAC address. On a side note, sir, there was no ASA configured in this topology because there was no proper guidance and configuration on how to use IPv6 based ASA. So the best we could do is configure port security for the DMZ zone, So as you can see here, there's no direct connection between PCs. So even if there's direct connection, it be read because the port is shut down. It's the same concept as the port security that I mentioned earlier in this piece. And that is all, sir. Thank you so much for your time and have a great day ahead.
So good morning guys, I'm Logeshwaran, TP038458, and I'll be explaining about VPN that implemented in the system we developed, the configuration that we developed. So the VPN is pretty much working over here, the internal network of Sri Lanka and also APU in Kuala Lumpur. So whatever packets or files and the traffic that's going between APU and Sri Lanka is through the VPN, and the packets are encrypted. So to check this, we go to the router, either router of the Sri Lanka or APU. We enable it, and then we show crypto ICKMP-SA, and so the status is up. We have all the source, and the IPv6 crypto ICSA is running. So technically we have our VPN running over here from Sri Lanka to APU. So if you check the APU router, so it's up also lah. So both of the routers, the VPN is up. So yeah, that's pretty much for the VPN. Okay, so the next component is Bastion host. So Bastion host is a specialized computer that purposely is exposed towards the network. So what it does is it's an intermediate medium that allows the packets to pass through it before it enters the internal network of an organization or the servers. By doing this, it can detect any malicious packet that's been sent into the network, and it can trigger an alarm. So it will close all the ports of the system, the internal system of our organization, so that the data in the organization can be protected. So the next part is a recommendation on connecting APU network to ARPIT in Sri Lanka. So we are suggesting two methods. One is cloud networking, another one is satellite internet. So first, about cloud networking. So cloud networking is it's a cloud-based networking. So all the files, the configurations, and the systems are centered toward cloud computing. It means we have a remote access towards the files. So one of the advantages of this method is it's very cost efficient. It is because we are moving towards cloud computing, and the cloud networking service providers are giving some sort of discounts and everything as a promotional strategy. So when we can utilize all the promotion that's given by the service providers, it is very cost efficient, and the backup and recovery is very easy because of the remote access that we are giving. You can backup in a cloud, so even you have a disaster, for example you have a fire accident or a flood, your files in the local devices won't be affected. Even if it's affected, it can be instantly backup from our cloud network, which is remotely located. And one more is the staffs can log into the system and work their task no matter their location or the time, as long as they are connected to the internet. But the disadvantages of this cloud networking is that we are exposing all our information, the vital informations and sensitive files, to an outsourcing company. So the integrity of the file can be compromised because of the cloud security we are facing right now. Secondly, it's satellite internet. So satellite internet is basically using transmission and receiving of data through a satellite dish located on Earth, with communication with orbiting geostationary satellites that's orbiting around the Earth. And the network operating system is the network operating center is the intermediate medium that controls the traffic that's going between from and to the receivers and senders. So the advantages of this satellite internet is the availability. So even in the rural area where cable internet is not that accessible, satellite internet is accessible because it's just using a radio wave. So it has a more availability and reachable towards around the globe. But disadvantage is the setup cost is quite high because of the equipments that we need. Because if you compare to normal internet, we just need a router, modem, and we are set. But over here, we need an antenna disk, some a startup programs, some hardwares, which is a bit of a hassle to develop. So we are suggesting and we are recommending that using cloud networking is much more feasible and it's more practical compared to using the satellite internet. Because if you compare Malaysia and also Sri Lanka, both of the countries have a very good exposure towards quite a high-speed internet. So we don't really need a satellite internet lah, and the setup cost is low in normal internet compared to satellite internet. So we suggest the normal cable internet to be used to connect the APID and also APU in Kuala Lumpur and Sri Lanka. So the next part of the question is how to overcome or how to come up with the countermeasures when a network is wiretapped. So first recommendation is cryptography. So cryptography is basically scrambling the information in a particular pattern and also rearranging it. So cryptography is really secures the confidentiality of the information sent and received. The integrity of the information is not compromised, and cryptography can also be used for authentication purposes too. So we have three types of cryptography. Number one is symmetric key cryptography, public key cryptography, and hash functions. So symmetric key cryptography is the sender and the receiver shares a single key. The key in the sense is a recipe to open up unscramble the data and also to scramble them. So the sender and receiver shares a single key, so it's very confidential between two parties only. Second is public key cryptography, which means for encryption, a public key is used, which is shared among a lot of people. But to decrypt, every single person or a party will have their private key that is used for this decryption. So different decryption private key will have a different pattern. Hash function is it's not two-way as encryption or decryption. Is just a one way. So a plain text is converted into a hash value with a particular format. We have a very different type of hash, for example hash 1, hash 256 and so on. So the process is irreversible. So when we receive a message in a hash value, we can only compare that message with the message that we are having. So we can decrypt it, so the integrity and the confidentiality of the information is more secured in hash when we are using hash functions. The second recommendation is steganography. So steganography is basically hiding the encrypted message in an ordinary message. So it's a way ahead of encryption. So the advantages of the steganography is the data will be not tampered, because as we are hiding a message in an ordinary message, to search for the message in that ordinary message is quite a difficult task. So it is a hassle for the hackers or the attackers to search through the message, and even if they find out it's a one-way hashing, so there's no way to tamper the message. So the second advantage is we attach the text to an image, so it's not suspicious for the attackers. When they are tapping our network, they just see an image, a relevant or maybe irrelevant image, but they are not really aware of the hidden messages that are included in the image itself. So the hiding information using steganography is better for data protections. Next is intrusion detection system. So intrusion detection system, basically what it does is it monitors the traffic for suspicious activities and issues. So when it senses something suspicious, it will alert the administrators when such activity is discovered lah. So it basically it monitors the network for packets. So basically it monitors the network for packets that are potentially will be a damage towards the network traffic. Moreover, some intrusion detection systems are capable of taking actions, not just work as a sensor, but they're capable of taking some actions also when malicious activities or anomalies in traffic are detected. So some of the action that will be taken by the intrusion detection system is that they will respond to the potential malicious traffic by logging the traffic and reject the malicious packets from entering the network itself. So advantages of IDS is basically the visibility, because it's provide a clear view of what's going on within your network, because it scans each and every packet that goes through the network. Second is it provides a defense. It adds a layer of defense to your security profile, providing a full backstop to your other security measures. So the defense of your network is really revved up. 3 is virus tracking. So when a virus hits your network, the IDS can tell which device or machine of your network is compromised and how the virus is propagating through your network to infect other machines also. But on the other hand, we are having some disadvantages on IDS. Number 1 is maintenance. So IDS is not exactly a firewall or a virus scan software. So when you install IDS, you will be needing extra firewalls and virus scan softwares or systems that to be attached to your network. So additional maintenance efforts and cost is required over here. Next is false positives. False positives are basically the triggering of IDS when nothing is wrong. So the IDS will be triggered even though the packets are not malicious. So that's false positive. False negative is when the IDS is not triggered when some malicious packets are sensed. So the IDS are basically will miss the intrusions that are getting into the network. Moreover, the staff requirements will be one of the disadvantages too, because IDS requires a proper and a high level management. So the staff requires a very good experience and skill on managing the IDS system. So we have 3 types of IDS. Number 1 is network intrusion detection system, which is an IDS which monitors the inbound and outbound traffic to and from the devices of the networks. Second is host intrusion detection system, HIDS. So this HIDS runs on all computer or devices on the network. So it detects anomaly in the networks. So what it does is it detects some malicious packets where it's originated within the network. So it also detects the malicious traffic that are caused from the host itself when the host is infected with malware and the malware is attempting to spread through other systems also. Third is anomaly based intrusion system. So what it does is it monitor the network traffic and compare it against an established baseline to determine which is considered normal for the network.